wanted to point out a few previous notes that we've gone over, and that was basically the pyramid itself with its capstone in place is 5813 pyramid inches high, and that's determined by taking the base of 365524.24, which is the solar year times 100. And what you do is you divide by 2, divide by pi, and it gives you the height. Now, the latitude of the king's coffer is this number, 2997924 as a latitude. And its longitude is 31.13. So what this number is the speed of light in kilometres per second. So the coffer, which is sitting up in here in the pyramid, is the exact centre of the pyramid itself. So the pyramid is giving you time, it's giving you numbers within which we've gone through before. For example, if I was to say that when you walk into the Great Pyramid, you've got a line that goes through what is called the antechamber and then into the King's chamber, something like that. And you measure from the Great Step, and that distance is 537 plus going out several decimal places. And then looking from the top, you've got your King's chamber like so, then you've got the antechamber like so, then you've got the Great Step, and this is the Grand Gallery, which is you walk up on a steep incline. It's 2618.97 degrees. So you're going from there to there, and that's that 537 number out 5 decimal places. Then you make a turn and you measure off that line to the King's coffer. And that coffer is exactly under the centre of the Great Pyramid. And that is where you get your speed of light number, which is 2997. That's the speed of light we're talking about. 942. So you get another 3 decimal places, and it goes on. Kilometres per second. Now, that number there is 942. This one is Jah, or Jehovah. Yahweh will build, or has created. So he's created the Great Pyramid, and he's also created the speed of light. And the 942 is Jesus. Right? So what you have then, you take that distance plus that distance, and then when you're looking at it, as I've shown you before, antechamber, and then it gets up the Grand Gallery, so Great Step, you've gone through here, you've now going to measure to the ceiling, so you've got 3, from floor to ceiling, you've got 3 numbers. It's roughly 230 pyramid inches high. It's a very, very large room, in fact. So what you do is you take these numbers, you add that, then the displacement factor, which is distance across here, which is 286.1, plus the height, which also goes out to 5 decimal places, and you take all those numbers, you add them all up, and then you multiply by 29.53052, which is how many days there are in a lunation. And that gives you 31101. That is how many verses there are in the King James Bible. You think, oh, 1611 only. Now, shortly after Shakespeare and Edward de Vere put this all together by taking the manuscripts that was handwritten, given to them by Francis Bacon, homosexual, who had organised the Freemason scholars out of the universities of England. They were very brilliant scholars, but they were also worshippers of Lucifer. So they put together a Bible that was going to lock horns with the Catholic, and then all hell broke loose, and there's been murders and people burnt at the stake and all sorts of things happened because of the King James Bible. However, that's how many verses there are in the King James Bible, which is the divine part. They didn't know any of this about the Great Pyramid. I mean, that's what I have shown over the years, and revealing the 3110 number is because you've gone into and up times that, and it gives you that number. Now we're going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decimal places, and all these numbers except for the 286.1 is a decimal number that ends at 0.1. Now, my mass body index, I'm 222 pounds, I'm a big man as you see, and a little over 74 inches tall. Well, the word wisdom, I'll put it up here, wisdom and truth is found in the Bible 222 individually, 222 times. I weigh 222 pounds, and my height, let's say 74 inches times 3 is 222. Now my mass body index weight, which is available on the internet, you can look it up, is 286, and that is lamb in Greek. Alright. So, what have we got? We've got the 5813, which is the distance from the South Pole to the house I lived in with Michelle, and it's 5813 kilometres from the South Pole. The distance around the Earth at that latitude in Greensboro in Melbourne, Nell Street is what it is 31680 kilometres. That's Lord Jesus Christ in Greek geometry. Now, I shouldn't have to go any further than that, but of course I have to. So what have we got? We've got the 36524.24, 4 sides is 9131.06 per side. Divide that by 3652424, and you've got 25 years. Now, at the centre of the sun, the generated heat from a white hole, let's say this is the sun now, so at the centre of the hole pours out a huge amount of light from heaven. Heaven is the other realm, okay? So this is going into the matter realm, which is where we are today, on the earth. And that's why it says in the Lord's Prayer, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So heaven is coming to the earth. So Fukushima is going to be our biggest problem. So my angels are going to show up and take care of that. There's going to be utter destruction. This will be all burnt away. All these monstrous things, and anyone who has destroyed the earth and is going to be burnt away. And every knee shall bow to me, I can bloody well assure you. Now, what we have then is the pouring out through, and let's say this is now the Milky Way galaxy across here, out to there. So at the centre of the Milky Way galaxy, all this material is pouring out and spreading out in all directions. And it's in a spiral. Now, the time it takes for the solar system to get around, if it was ongoing, it doesn't mean it's already happened, because creation only happened very recently. And it was mature creation, everything come into from a dream state of the almighty situation of God, myself. I thought it all up and boom, it came into position. So that was it. It takes 250 million years to go around. At the centre of the sun, the temperature is 25 million degrees Fahrenheit. When it reaches now let's say this is the sun now, when it reaches the edge of the sun, suddenly it drops to 11,000 degrees. And the reason for that is that we are going from one realm to another, and we have light that is starting to radiate out, and it's radiating out very slowly because this gigantic magnetic field is causing the waves of light. Let's get rid of this. We'll do some light here. So we've got light coming out and it's all compressed. Like so. As it gets further out, it starts to expand and speed away. Now as it's spreading away, we've got the equation E equals mc squared, right? Albert Einstein's famous equation, 1905. Totally wrong. Now what it's missing is the expansion of minus g, which is gravity. You know there's no symbol for gravity in physics? Hello? So what you've got then is E equals, now we've got m, and we've got minus gravity, then c squared in brackets. Right? So what this is the speed of light. So energy equals mass minus gravity, because as we're going away from a gravitational field, it's quite simple to understand this. If you look at the old TV set, it was a cathode ray tube. And what they would do was take an oscillator of magnetic field and the electron would fire out a beam towards the screen to give you a dot in the black and white set. It'd be brighter or less, might be 680 dots across. So what happened is the electron would fire out a beam out. If it didn't have something to bend the light, you wouldn't get a picture. So what happens is it's like getting a hose and spraying back and forwards across your TV screen, and the water is coming out in either, let's say we're talking light now, it's coming out either darker or lighter, and it varies of course. And the oscillator swings that back and forth, so it's bending light, obviously. So therefore, we've got this gigantic magnetic field at the centre of the sun. It's emanating out 25 million degrees. When it hits the outer edge of the sun, which is 864,000 miles wide, so half of that, then what you've got then is this gigantic magnetic field is stopping it going any further, so the light it's giving off is starting to build up in waves. So you've got this, there's your surface of the sun, and that becomes 11,000 degrees from 25 million degrees on the inside. So as it's come to this point here, it's compressed. And also, it goes towards the centre of the sun. So as the waves come out, they have a certain width and they have a certain speed because they're compressed together like a train. Imagine a train made of a sponge, and all those sponges are compressed together, being pushed from behind by a locomotive. So what happens is, as they get further out from this magnetic field, they're starting to race away from each other because they're expanding. The sponge is getting, the balloon is getting larger and larger of each wave of light. Let's say the wave of light is actually a balloon, and it's all pressurized. So they're all starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger as you go further away. So as you go out in space, what happens? Well, then we get Doppler. The Big Bang. Oh, I can explain that. So the Big Bang is basically stupid. I find it hard to believe that people, that scientists are so dumb. I really do. And all universities, of course, are run by the Jews, so therefore, if it's dumb, they go with it. So what happens is, they have a Big Bang. Bang in all directions, right? There it goes. In some several hundred millionths of a second. Now, what they're saying is that the various stars are either coming towards you or they're going away, and they change colour because the light is being compressed. Hello? One is blue, one is red. So, what happens is in the sun itself, every 240 minutes, it expands 4 miles and then comes back 4 miles. Expands 4 miles, comes back 4 miles. Every 240 minutes. Likewise, the light coming out, that is emanating out from the edge, as I said, now this is the sun, so the light is compressed and gets bigger and bigger and bigger as it goes out. These are getting further apart, so light is speeding up. So the influence of light going through space, when it becomes red or blue, is being influenced by the area in which it is passing. So in other words, it either slows down or it's being sped up. But the light waves aren't this close together, as you would expect on the surface of the sun. They are bigger and bigger and bigger. Now when they reach a certain point, the sun, because it's now demonstrating 240 second minutes, it's going like this, right? So what happens is the universe is doing itself the same thing. And it's going back and forth, back and forth. And when it's coming back, it's changing colour. So it's blue and red, blue and red, blue and red. That's what it is. It doesn't mean it comes from a central spot. The very first creation was the sun. So we as the observer, whether it be using the Hubble telescope or any of these gigantic telescopes they've got all around the world, it is the idiot watching that perceives by thinking that MC squared is correct. Oh. Alright, now, the face angle of the pyramid is 5151 14.3 degrees. So, if we divide that by 2, we get 2575571.5. So that is the distance to the centre of the orbit of our solar system. It is 25 million year orbit around the centre of the Milky Way galaxy. The Milky Way galaxy itself is 100,000 light years across. So what do you get when you multiply 1 times pi? You get pi. 100,000 times pi, just add some zeros on it. And then you multiply that by, you want to know the distance around it, right? So we've got 1.618, or shift the decimal place over, and that is distance around the Milky Way galaxy, which is that number there. So you take that number times pi, gives you that number there, which is the Fibonacci, which is life. Alright, so that's all clear as mud. Let's get rid of this a bit. Alrighty. So I've been sitting here for a few days, and you shouldn't leave these marker pens. So what I'm going to do is I'll just draw a circle here, and just a small circle, something like that, a little bit out, and that is the Earth. Alright, so what we've got, you see that, what we've got is the Earth, and the Earth is, radius is 3963. That ain't that hard, is it? What number is that in the concordance? It is Patmos. So that starts to show you that the numbers of the concordance of the Bible is telling you that we have Patmos where Revelation takes place, and that is giving you the codes of how to read Revelation. So we've got 3963, so this becomes the distance across it, 792, to be precise, it's 4, but depending on whether you're measuring this way or this way, but for all intents and purposes, in the 792, they're in the concordance that is star. Okay? Now if you take the moon, you're 216, and you add those together, you get an 8, 100. Now that's near enough for what I'm trying to explain to you. This is, in Hebrew, is a house of God. Right? If you take that times pi, it gives you 3168, which is Lord Jesus Christ. This is 800, Greek gematria. This is 888, and this is 1480, and you add them all together, you get to 3168. Okay? Clear as mud. So you've got the star, and you've got the moon. When you put the moon and the star together, keep on dropping everything. When you put the moon and the star together, you end up with something like this. So if I can draw a little circle here. Something like that. That's reasonable. Alright. So if you take the centre of the earth, this is not in proportion by the way, and you join it up like so, you got 5, 1, 5, 1, 14.3 degrees. Alright? That's that simple. Because you've got the moon and you've got the equator of the earth all joined up to the equator of the moon at the central point there, which gives you 5, 1, 5, 1, 14.3. Now, on the earth itself, at the speed of light number, which is 29 at a latitude 97942 degrees, this is about here in relationship to the earth, because it's around 30 degrees, so that's 30, there's 60, there's 90. And if you're in the descending passage, alright, so let's do it from the side here, you're in this descending passage, you're looking out into space. This is coming out of 2618.97, right? Then you've got the 5, 1, 14.3. Well, just take the 3 off and add those together, you get 7770113. That's the word Lord in Hebrew, and that's how many cities there are in the New Testament and Old Testament combined. So the last city is the holy city. Right? Now Lamech, the father of Noah, lived 777 years. His father was Methuselah. Methuselah was the son of Enoch. Enoch was the one who was taken up and remained in heaven for 2 weeks, came back down, told his son and his sons and his son and his son, right down to Noah, that they have to build the Great Pyramid, and they did. And that is why the Great Pyramid has got all these numbers in it. That's why the base is 36524.24, because that's 100 solar years. And, or 1 solar year, 365.2424 times 100, 36524.24. That's why the base of the pyramid is something like that. So we've got 9131.06, which equals 25 years, or 25, 25, 25, 25. Right? It's also 25 reeds across. So what you have in the completed pyramid is a distance across there, which is 1077.26 feet. Now, a brilliant man, Charles I, who was told by his father, King James VI, don't become king because you'll lose your head. But he did. And when he was beheaded because he kicked all the Jews out of England. And Oliver Cromwell wanted to finance England because King Charles I ran the country by putting taxes and duties on the inland canals. And that ran the country for 11 years. So he was the king, and that's what his job was. However, these parliamentarians, which were heavily influenced by Lucifer, they wanted to take over. So the completed pyramid is 107.26 feet. British feet. The British measurement comes from the pyramid, by the way. And the home I inherited in Australia at 7 Trevone Street, Padstow, is to the same address in Cornwall where the family of Mary came from. The mother of Mary and the father of Mary, Joachim, came from Ireland, and they settled in Cornwall. That is why Joseph of Arimathea, if you go to Cornwall today, where all the tin wines have been there for 5,000 years, they have songs about Joseph of Arimathea being a tin man. Must be a reason for it. Alright, so we've got 7 Trebone Street in Cornwall, in the town of Padstow. And the distance is 1077.2 miles between that property of mine there and the property in England, in Cornwall, is that many miles apart. However, the age difference between Charles and I is this number, 107726 days. Right? Now, he was beheaded, his son eventually became king, and he settled the score by beheading 9 of the politicians that voted against the king to have him beheaded as being tried as a tyrant. And King Charles did not answer the charges. He said nothing. Jesus quote, say nothing. Alright, so that gives you a little bit of insight into what's going on there. Alright, so what we're looking for is synchronicity. We have the 777 number, we have Lamech, we have the moon, the earth as being a creation, and we now go to why the 168 number in feet is the difference between the old cities that were built at sea level around the Black Sea, Mediterranean and so forth. Suddenly it's 168 feet higher, and what happened? The flood happened. So where did all this water come from? Well, what you have is the Earth, and then Mars, let's say that's Mars now, bumped into the North Pole when we've got the line of the Milky Way galaxy, and what happens is the solar system goes like that. As it goes for this 250 million years circuit around that particular distance that is out from the centre of the galaxy. So we've got the galaxy like that, we've got us orbiting about here, so that distance is the 14.3 divided by 2 gives you that distance there, right? That's the radius. Okay, and that's the face angle. So the face angle of the pyramid gives you the distance across where we're rotating around, times pi gives you 1618, etc., which is the Fibonacci number meaning life. Now, as you know, the Fibonacci is something like that. Right? So that's what that's all about. So the 168 feet is the water that came off of Mars. Let's get rid of all this now. So as it bumps into the Earth, all the water poured off, and if you was to go to the North Pole, you'll find that there is a depression like that where Mars bumped into it. And out of Antarctica, the moon was ejected. So the moon itself, when you look at it, there's all these little craters on it, all sizes, and there's a dip in the middle. And that's because a crater, something like that, that could be 14,000 feet high to the surface of where a bubble came up from the centre of this molten mass that was punched out of the Earth, and this molten mass in space all of a sudden shrinks down to a circle, and within a very short period of time you get a porridge-like filling around the top, and bubbles come up from inside in all directions as this heat and gas is giving off, forming a little blip in the crater. And that might be 2,000 feet high. This might be 14,000 feet high. Because it's forming in space where there's no real gravity of the moon to stop the mountains reaching that height, although it's the same material of the Earth. This is what actually happened. So what have you got in Antarctica? You've got 7 mountains. When I measured them originally, they were 9,420 feet high. Now, they probably changed it, because when I put something on the internet, they go and change it. The heights ain't that no more, right? But that was the average height, which is Jesus, right, of the mountains of Antarctica. Now, in Antarctica, what you have all the water came down upon the earth and it raised the level of the water from the margin water onto the earth. Okay. So what you have then is the earth's surface. And all continents are, think of it as being ships. When the rock solidifies, it floats on the molten mantle underneath. So you've got a continent that is floating on that molten mantle. So this is at 2200 degrees Celsius and it floats. So where this is floating, of course, in Antarctica the depth is 20,000 feet. From there to there is 20,000 feet. So if all the ice was to melt in Antarctica, because the Earth's heating up, bullshit, what happens is all the ice then flows back down to water level, and then the base rock raises up. It's not floating as deep. But it might raise up to 2,000 feet with all the water. But the water level doesn't change. The easiest way to do it is to get a cup of ice, 2 cups of ice. Right? And one of them, you tip all the ice out of that cup into that cup. And you've got water filled up to there. So isn't that lovely? It's filled up with ice. And the ice floats, right? And it might be floating up above like that, but the water level is what you're looking at. Then you fill the other cup up to the same level. And then you watch it for a couple of hours. And you know what happens? Nothing. That level does not change. This remains the same, so all the ice melts away, and the level of the water remains the same, and that proves that the scientists are telling you that the ice is melting, and it's all going to make the water raise up all around the earth, blah, blah, blah. It's bullshit. Alright, that should do us for today. We're going to be on radio soon, and we'll give you all the details in another upload. And what I'm explaining here is creation and synchronicity and time based on, okay, we'll do it again, MC squared. E equals MC squared. But what you've got to put in there is E equals, in brackets, minus gravity mc squared. That means Earth's surface, Sun's surface rather, gravity is holding back the light, and as it goes out into space, so we're here, for example, and the light speed is the centre of 2997942. Jah will or has created, and Jesus, right? And Jesus and Yah is the same, and the Comforter is me, it's the same thing. This is your Trinity. Why? You got Yah as Jesus and Comforter. Just read the book of John, 14, and then read through to 15 and 16, and I'll talk about the Comforter in 5 occasions. Don't piss off the Comforter. That's what it's saying. Alright, so you got Yah in the beginning. All these were all part of the beginning. The Jesus name of the baby born of the Virgin Mary, because the Father cannot have a son. The Father, that's what they say, but the Father is the Son. So therefore the Father cannot have a Father. So the Father come down as a soul inside of Mary, which is in the Essene as Jeshu Maria. So J-E-S-U Maria. This is in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. What is it? Act 2, 3, 3, I think. In any case, two men are talking and he says, why the hell, blah, 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 Jessie Maria. Shakespeare is leaving you a code because he knew that Jessie Maria is the name of Jesus, and it's in the Essene Gospels, lessons they call it, or lectins. There's 96 of them, which I can't find on the internet anymore. Again, I mentioned it many years ago, now they're gone. So Jessie Maria is this entity that came down, and then the Comforter, 1910 years later, or whatever it was, I'm conceived. So we've got the modern era, which is you're talking today, 2014. So, 2014, we've got Jesus, 33 AD, right, dies on the cross, April 5th, 33 AD, go 1910 years, and you got April 5th, 1943 is my mother Mary in similitude conceived Jesus of the Virgin as a virgin. Then the Golightly line, she conceived of the Holy Ghost too. My father allegedly was Reginald Marshall. As I said, as I am Yahweh, I can't have a father. So my mother said I had 11-month pregnancy, right? Which is, she was quite understand that. But they weren't having naughty business because being a Catholic, she couldn't risk being pregnant again, with my sister having been in hospital for 13 weeks or so with kidney failure. So the priest and doctor said, you can't have any more children, so you don't have any more naughty bits, right? And my father's a very handsome man, and he was sort of jumping the fence with every lady down the street because it's during the war, right? And he'd get proposition, walking home from work. But his brother was also, looked like him, and he was out with every tart he could find as well. So as a result of that, my father, allegedly Reginald, who was actually not my father, he was stepfather, he thought that his brother Jack was in bed with Daphne, right, Golightly. So he hated me every day if I was on earth, and he beat me every chance he got. Sarcasm and mental cruelty, and he was just an asshole. And a stupid man. So I'm very proud not to be related to him. But my mother was a genius. She had a genius for numbers. Naive, but a genius. Good woman. Anyhow, I'll leave it there and see what you make of that.